Hi, my name is Mathur. I'm from CloudBees, and I'm here today to present release management in the era of progressive delivery. In my work at CloudBees, I've had the opportunity to work with and learn from enterprises in different phases of their DevOps journey, and progressive delivery is the next level of maturity in software delivery. I will be going through a few concepts building into uh, progressive delivery, how the use of feature flags can impact progressive delivery practices, and finally walk through top considerations for enterprises who are looking to adopt progressive delivery. So let's start with what are feature flags. They give the ability to turn features or subsections of your application on and off remotely without redeploying your software. So they're also known as feature flippers or feature toggles, and simply they are an if statement in your code. So if your feature is flag is enabled, then your code for your feature is available and you have your feature on. If not, then your feature is off, then the feature is not available to your users. And feature flags and their formal usage and standardization into CI/CD tool chains is rapidly growing for companies today. Let's now look at continuous delivery, which I'm sure folks are familiar with as a software development discipline, where you're building your software such that the software can be released into production at any time. And you're doing continuous delivery when your software is deployable throughout its life cycle. Your teams are prioritizing keeping your software deployable so anybody can get fast automated feedback on the production readiness of their system at any time. And you can perform push button deployments of any version of your software to any environment on your demand. So CI and CD practices are the foundation for progressive delivery. But even when you're doing CD well, the questions come up. Are you comfortable deploying to production on a Friday? Are you comfortable testing in production? And what can help you to get that confidence is progressive delivery. This is the process of pushing changes to a product iteratively. First, you're starting with a small audience and then increasingly to larger audiences. So you're incrementally rolling out your feature to specific selected cohorts, and this is limiting then the blast radius that's impacted by a new change or feature. So once it's tested well with that small group, then you can continue to roll it out with confidence. And in this way, the release is decoupled from the deployment. You deploy to production and then use the flags to start to actually make the new features available to your users. You're also testing in production. You're bringing more features into production because you have the confidence of being able to respond to users or negative issues with quickly being able to turn them off with feature flags. And you're able to release with confidence because you have that control. So you might even be comfortable releasing on a Friday. So now let's look at how feature flags and continuous delivery together can help you reach progressive delivery. So first, before we get into feature flags, let's just look at how today we do traditional canary releases to start testing on real users in production. So you can deliver progressively to environments using canary deployments, and you limit exposure and test in production when the new code is deployed. In this case, the control is in the infrastructure networking layer, where we're selecting a small percentage of users to route to servers where the new version of your product has been deployed, as you can see in the diagram. And then over time, you upgrade more servers to the new version and also route more and more of your users to that new version until all users are on version 2. And this allows testing new features with small groups in production, which is great. That's what we're trying for. But there are challenges. The ops team has to stay involved in the whole process, and it can be complicated to control. There are limited methods for targeting which users to test on with new features. The feedback loop itself becomes harder because most deployments contain many changes. It's not just a single version. So when you get feedback, it's on that whole version, and your response to that is also has to be at that same level where your entire version has to be rolled back when there are any issues. So let's look at how you can use feature flags to achieve that same progressive delivery, where now the control is in the application layer, where how using feature flags to start to roll out your new features. So in this case, your new version is deployed into your production environment, but then the ops team is kind of done once that deployment is complete. From here, the product team can take over and start to progressively roll out the features to small subsets of users with a highly selective criteria that's all within their control. And then over time, as they're testing and getting the expected reception of that feature, the feature can then be progressively turned on for more and more users until all users are on the new features. So this is great. We're shifting our organizations from product or full version releases to a focus on features. The features are no longer bound by the release as a whole. And so that's really changing the game of how we're able to start delivering value to our customers. And there are a few things you do need to be aware of with this new way of doing things. If you don't know whether a flag will be turned on or off in production, you do need to test both cases. You don't need to test all permutations, but you need to, think about and plan that testing appropriately. And also, there's new ownership involved, where the product team is involved post deployment and controlling this release rather than just the ops team. So let's break down what a release might look like with a traditional release versus with feature granularity and control, and how these approaches differ in response to issues. So on the top, we have a traditional release where there are 4 features and all of them are being deployed together. And this is how most companies operate today, where the whole version is deployed to each environment. And then if there are issues, you have to respond at that whole level. So let's go through this. We have the features go through the commit and build stage, and then in the test stage, there's an issue with feature 3 that's identified. At this point, there's a delay in the release because we need to fix that issue before we can continue. So we have to fix the issue, test it again, and then we're able to go into the deploy production stage. And now all features are available to all users at once, and there's an issue with feature 4. So we have to react quickly, and the only way to do that is to roll back the entire version. So now none of the users get any of the features until all of these issues have been fixed, and it goes through this process again. On the bottom, again, we have 4 features going through as a collection as part of this release. In the test stage, we again see an issue with feature 3, but instead of delaying the whole release, we turn that feature off and continue. So we go into our production deployment. In this, now we start to progressively deliver our features. So only a small subset of users even see all the features, and they report the issue with feature 4. And now instead of rolling back the entire version, we stop rollout of feature 4 and turn it off. And so now features 1 and 2 are available to our users. There's no disruption, and features 3 and 4 can be delivered when they're ready. So there's no delay at all. So what this does is really gives you more flexibility and agility in your release, where you can quickly respond to issues, have granularity over rollout and rollback when there are issues, and you don't have to roll back everything, right? You just have those easy toggles to control the features as you're getting the feedback. So Um, just looking at traditional CD versus CD with feature flags. With feature flags, you get to be more focused on delivering features rather than looking at the whole release and the versions. And in this way, is on customers, where you're really looking at what is your customer response and working with them to give them the features that work well. You're shifting further right to testing in production with your real users because you're comfortable doing that. You have the control to respond when needed. You are testing first on users focused with highly selective characteristics that's in your database. So that makes sure that you're testing against the right sets of users. And then you have the independence of feature releases that can be rolled out or rolled back without impacting others. Aside from this, you're able to decouple the actual act of deploying versus when the features are delivered, which might be more tied to business timelines. So let's jump into the top considerations for enterprise progressive delivery. We'll start with asking the question, what would be the easiest way to test and learn in production on real users? And to add to that, in a repeatable and automated way where you can really make this a practice. So let's start with the fundamentals. In order to reach progressive delivery, you want to be doing continuous integration, continuous delivery with some level of maturity, and also have feature flags to be able to turn on and off features. So have feature flags integrated in and have those capabilities to control the blast radius of your features. And then all of these should be integrated together to be that backbone that progressive delivery is built on. So how are they integrated? The first is common visibility of feature flags. So your CD pipeline should be able to receive feature flags as input, be aware of the gated features in the release per environment, and you want visibility into the feature flag configurations across your environment. So what are your current states of your feature flags across the environments in your pipeline, and also the feature release criteria and where you are with that. So in this dashboard, you see a high level view of a release with a section specifically for the feature flags that are part of the release and the current state of those flags. So that gives you the status of the release. You're not fully released until your flags are also released. You also want common controls and governance. So the CD pipeline should be able to automatically integrate with and control your feature flags. You should be able to change the values of feature flags as part of your release processes. So in making them true or false or whatever setting you need, you should be able to update the targeting of those feature flags, have change permissions or controls on who can actually make the changes to feature flag settings. So that should be all as part of your governance within your CD pipeline. And then finally, the changes and toggles of feature flags should be collected as part of the audit trail of your whole CD process. So you can go back and see exactly what happened in the past. And then the automation needs to be smart, where you can create feature release templates that have the way that you're going to roll out your features across your users that can be reused across pipelines to make it much easier, whether it's a percentage based or a ring based where you grow across sets of users. You should be able to ingest performance data in your CD pipeline that's correlated with feature flags. So if you want to be looking at, performance monitoring tools or test tools or even user management data, that's all collected as part of your pipeline and then correlated with your feature flags, and then use that to define your rollout or rollback policies of your features, so that you can say that, if my tests passed 75%, then continue to roll out my feature to the next set of users. If not, turn off the feature, and do that all automated as part of your pipeline. And then finally, as with any other part of your DevOps journey, this is an organizational process and culture shift. So organizations need to get comfortable with the fact that they may be releasing incomplete code, but have faith that the feature flags are going to stop that from being exposed to the users. Production application version may not anymore be the single source of truth. You need to know the state of your feature flags in production to know what is actually available to your users. You need to know what the new feedback and revision process for features being tested in production is going to be. So you need to establish this testing process and have that fed into your pipeline. And then who in the org is now releasing features? We mentioned this. There's new ownership of who is owning the delivery of feature flags. And finally, as you're introducing more and more flags in your code, they need to be managed over time. Otherwise, you're going to add technical debt. So this is a journey. You start with the CI/CD and feature flag fundamentals, integrated to have common visibility, governance, smart automation to ultimately achieve enterprise progressive delivery, all driven by this process and culture shift within your organization. So thank you so much for your time today.